So, this happened to my cousin Danny a few years ago. I think it was the fall of 2016, just outside a small town called Lakeshore Hollow, North Carolina. He was working security at this weird government facility way out in the sticks, something called Briarhall Complex. No signs, no logos, no American flag out front, just this plain gray building sitting out there like a forgotten tombstone in the middle of nowhere. Danny had been with the security company for almost 7 years by that point. He was one of their senior guys, trained in everything from firearms to emergency response. The guy was solid, real calm, level-headed. He usually worked mornings or evenings, rarely did nights, but things had gotten dicey at Briarhall. Folks kept quitting the overnight shifts, especially on weekends.
People said it was too quiet.
Gave them the creeps. Danny figured it was just nerves. New site, isolated location, bad lighting, that sort of thing. But they were short-handed, and he needed the money, so when his supervisor asked if he could pick up a few weekend overnights, he said yeah, figured it'd be easy money. Briarhall itself was strange. Picture this. A 6-story building surrounded by a cracked, crumbling parking lot, all of it fenced in by a 10-foot chain-link fence with barbed wire curling along the top. Only one way in or out. A rusted metal gate that opened onto a dirt road. That dirt road stretched almost 4 miles through thick pine woods before hitting the main highway. No streetlights, no neighbors, no signal for your phone. Just trees, shadows, and silence. The inside wasn't much better. Concrete floors, bare white walls, echoey halls. Most of the building was empty. Supposedly it was some kind of archive center for old federal records. But Danny said it felt more like a place they used to store things people wanted to forget. The first 2 weekends, nothing. Quiet. Boring. Danny even joked he could have taken a nap and no one would have known. But that 3rd weekend? That's when things got weird. It was a Saturday night. Just after 2 a.m., a thunderstorm was rolling in, and the rain was coming down hard. One of those storms that shakes your windows and makes the lights flicker. Danny was up on the 6th floor in the security control room, feet kicked up on the desk watching some old horror movie on his phone. He had the lights off, just the glow from the screens and the occasional flash of lightning lighting up the room. The control room overlooked the back lot, and it had these 3 big monitors showing live security feeds from all around the building. Most of the feeds were boring. Empty hallways, quiet doors, wind blowing through the trees outside. After sitting for a while, Danny got up to stretch. He figured he'd hit the vending machine for an energy drink to stay sharp. But before heading out, he wandered over to the window, pulled the blinds, and looked out across the back lot. Now remember, this place is surrounded by woods. And beyond the fence, there's just darkness. But when the lightning flashed, Danny saw something, a figure. Just for a second, it darted from one tree to another, maybe 20 feet apart. Tall, fast, too quick to get a good look at. Danny stood there watching the trees, waiting for another flash. When it came, nothing. No movement. Just rain and wind and branches swaying. He tried to laugh it off. Probably just a deer, he told himself. Or his eyes playing tricks. He grabbed his energy drink and chugged it as he walked back to the control room. When he sat back down, though, something was off. One of the cameras and the one covering the back lot had gone black. Danny frowned. He looked out the window again, and sure enough, the camera was swinging from its wires like something had torn it loose. The storm, maybe? But the other cameras were fine. That one was just gone. He logged the incident in his report and went back to his movie. But only a few minutes later, he heard the system alert sound, the one that goes off when someone accesses a secure door. He checked the control panel. The access came from the back of the building, near the broken camera. Whoever it was had the code. Danny's stomach dropped. There were no scheduled visits. No one was supposed to be there. And if it was a staff member, they would have had to notify security first. He picked up the landline. Dead. No dial tone, his cell, no bars. Not even one. That's when the power went out, total blackness. The monitors, the lights, everything, and gone. Only flashes of lightning lit up the control room every few seconds. And outside, in that brief light, he thought he saw the back door hanging open. Danny grabbed his flashlight and sidearm. He wasn't some rookie. He knew the layout, and he knew where the emergency exits were. His plan was simple. Head downstairs, exit through the lobby, and get to his truck. Drive out and call the cops as soon as he had signal. He slipped into the hallway, flashlight off, walking quietly toward the stairwell. But just as he reached for the door, he froze. Footsteps, not soft ones, heavy, measured, coming up the stairs. Danny pulled back, heart pounding. He hadn't made a sound. No one should have known he was there, and yet, someone was climbing. He knew he couldn't shoot unless it was life or death, so he turned and crept back up toward the 6th floor. Just past the door in the stairwell, there was a narrow ladder that led to a roof hatch. It was always locked from the inside, but he figured he could climb up and hide just below it in the shadows. Maybe whoever was inside would leave. Maybe they were just looking for something to steal. But as he turned to climb the ladder, his sidearm clipped the railing. Clang! The metal echoed like a gong. The footsteps stopped. Then they started running. Danny scrambled up the ladder. At the top, just beneath the hatch, he crouched and held his breath. A second later, the door below him slammed open. A figure, tall, dressed in black, face hidden behind a mask, burst through and took off down the hallway. Danny didn't wait. He dropped from the ladder, knees buckling a little on impact, and bolted down the stairs. He was fast. But so was the other guy. The chase was on. Every stairwell echoed with their footsteps. Danny's lighter, frantic. The other man's heavy, pounding like a drumbeat in his ears. Floor after floor blurred past. Danny didn't look back.
He didn't need to.
He could feel the man gaining. As he reached the lobby, he heard a crash behind him, followed by a sharp cry. A fall. Danny didn't stop. He slammed through the front doors, rain slashing at his face. His truck was parked close, thank God. He fumbled with the keys, unlocked the doors, and jumped in. Just as he started the engine, he saw the man again, sprinting out of the building, soaked, silent, still masked. Danny floored it. Tires spun in the mud, and then he was gone, tearing down the dirt road, trees whipping past. He didn't get a signal until he hit the highway. He called the cops, told them everything. They met him and went back to Briarhall, but the place was empty. No signs of a break-in. No trace of the man except for one thing. In the stairwell, where the fall had happened, they found a handgun. Semi-automatic. Fully loaded. No serial number. Unregistered. To this day, no one knows who the man was, how he got the code, or what he was looking for. The government said it was just a trespasser. Random. But Danny doesn't buy it. Not for a second. He says the way the man moved, how he seemed to know the building, the power outage, the silence, and it all felt planned, like he was being hunted, like the man knew he'd be there alone on that stormy night. Danny quit the next morning, moved out of town, won't even drive past that dirt road anymore, and me, I don't blame him. Because sometimes late at night when the wind picks up and the trees start swaying, I swear I can hear those same heavy footsteps just outside the window, and I wonder, what if that guy wasn't just after Danny? What if he's still out there, looking for the next night guard? Okay, so listen. I'm not the kind of person who scares easily. I grew up in a small town where nothing really happens, and I've seen my fair share of weird stuff. But there's this one night, this one thing that I can't shake. It happened back in 2013, when I was 22 and working the night shift as a security guard at an office building in Dawson Ridge, Oregon. It was supposed to be a temporary thing, just filling in for my Uncle Ray while he recovered from surgery. The building wasn't huge, just 6 floors, a basement garage, and way too many hallways that felt way too long when you were walking them alone at night. It was one of those old glass and concrete buildings from the late 80s, the kind that creaks even when no one's around. It sat on the edge of town, surrounded by nothing but trees and a grocery store that closed at 9. Most nights were boring. I'd sit in the lobby with a thermos of coffee, staring at a wall of old monitors with fuzzy black and white feeds from every hallway, elevator, and the garage. My job was simple. Stay awake, keep an eye on the cameras, walk the floors a couple times a night, and report anything unusual. Nothing ever happened until it did. It started just after midnight. The last worker, some guy from accounting, left around 11:30. I watched him leave on the camera. After that, it was just me, the soft hum of the vending machines, and the low buzz of the fluorescent lights overhead. I was doing my usual scan of the monitors, flipping through camera angles. Lobby, floors 1 through 6, back stairwell, and then the garage. That's when I saw him. At first, I didn't even notice. He moved so slowly it was like the screen was glitching. But when I looked closer, I saw a figure. Someone walking between the cars in the lower garage. He was moving weirdly, not like someone who lost their car or was heading to an exit. He sort of wandered, dragging one foot behind the other, stopping now and then like he was sniffing the air. I'm not kidding. It looked like that. No one was supposed to be down there. The garage was locked after 10, and only a handful of people had 24-hour access. I checked the log. No entries since 9:42 p.m. The cleaning crew had left before that. So who was this guy? He wore this long, dark coat, like way too long. It dragged behind him like it didn't fit. His hair was greasy and hung in strings around his face, and I swear his eyes were too wide for his face. Not like big, just open, like he didn't blink. He wasn't holding anything, and he wasn't heading anywhere, just pacing between rows of cars like he was looking for something or someone. I tried to tell myself maybe it was just someone who snuck in or a janitor I didn't recognize. But something about him felt wrong. The way he moved. The way he stared into the shadows instead of the lights. It gave me chills, and I don't get chills. I called my supervisor, Mike, over the radio. Told him what I was seeing. He sounded half asleep and told me to stay at my post, keep watching the cameras, and not to engage. But something inside me, maybe it was stupid curiosity, told me I had to see it for myself. So I grabbed my flashlight and took the elevator down. Now the elevator in that building was old. It rattled. It groaned. It always felt a little too slow, like it was thinking about stopping between floors. As it creaked down toward the garage, I felt this growing sense of dread, the kind that builds behind your ribs like pressure. When the doors finally slid open, the cold air hit me like a slap. The garage smelled like oil and concrete and old water. I stepped out, shining my light between the cars. "Security," I called out. My voice echoed off the walls. No response. I walked to the garage slowly, listening. Every step I took felt like it echoed twice. My flashlight caught a shape behind a car, but it was just a box. The silence was heavy, thick like it was pushing in on me. Not a sound. Not even the usual hum from the ventilation fans. I circled the garage twice. Nothing, no guy. No footprints. No coat dragging across the floor. Just cars and shadows. By the time I got back to the elevator, I started to feel ridiculous. Maybe the camera had glitched. Maybe I was overtired and seeing things. But then I got upstairs and sat back down at the monitors, and there he was, still in the garage. Still in the same spot I'd just walked past minutes ago. He hadn't moved an inch. He just stood there between two cars, half in the dark, staring directly at the camera. My heart dropped into my stomach. There was no way I missed him. None. That part of the garage was lit. I'd walked right past it. And now it looked like he was smiling. I radioed Mike again. This time my voice was shaking. He told me again not to engage, just watch and wait. I wanted to listen, I really did, but the longer I looked at that screen, the more I felt like I was the one being watched. For the next 20 minutes, the man started to move again. He walked slowly toward the stairwell door. Every few steps he'd stop and tilt his head like he was listening. He moved like someone who wasn't in a rush, like someone who already knew where he was going. When he reached the door, he didn't open it, he just vanished like one frame he was there and in the next gone. I rewound the footage 3 times. He didn't open the door. He didn't walk away. He just disappeared. I flipped through all the camera feeds, hallways, stairwells, roof access, but there was no trace of him. It was like he'd never been there at all. Then the elevator dinged. I spun around in my chair, staring at the empty open doors. No one was inside, but across the glossy lobby floor I saw them. Footprints. Wet. Bare. They trailed from the elevator, across the tile, and vanished somewhere past the break room. Each one clear like they'd just been made. And they were big, long toes. Too long. And that's when I realized this guy wasn't just in the building now. He was walking barefoot, somewhere behind me. I locked the lobby door and called for backup, our off-site patrol. told them something was seriously wrong. While I waited, I debated staying put. But then I remembered Uncle Ray telling me something. Always confirm. Always make sure what you saw is real. So like an idiot, I went looking. I took the elevator to the 5th floor, the creepiest one in the building. It was mostly storage and unused offices. The lights flickered a lot and half the hallway was always weirdly cold. As I stepped out, I could feel the air change. It was heavy, like the whole floor was holding its breath. I walked slowly, flashlight in hand, checking door after door. All locked, all quiet, until I saw one door that wasn't fully shut, room 507. I remember because it had a busted nameplate that just said 07. I pushed the door open with my flashlight and peered in. Empty room. Just a desk, a dead computer monitor, and a chair. But it felt wrong. Like something had just been there. I backed out, and that's when I heard it. Footsteps, not mine. Wet, slapping, against tile. Fast, I turned and caught just a flash of movement at the far end of the hall. Long coat, dripping sleeves, hair hanging like seaweed. He was walking straight toward me, not running. Just fast, determined. I didn't think so. I ran. I bolted for the stairwell, heart racing, my legs barely working. The door felt a mile away. Behind me, the footsteps echoed louder and faster, bouncing off the walls. I swear I felt breath on my neck as I yanked open the door and slammed it shut behind me. Silence. No footsteps on the stairs. No voice, nothing. I sat there slumped against the cold concrete wall, shaking. My ears are ringing. I don't remember how long I waited, but when the off-site patrol finally showed up, I nearly jumped out of my skin. We searched the building together. Every floor, every office, the garage, all of it. There was nothing, no guy, no footprints, no coat, nothing. And when we checked the security footage, the feed from that hour was gone, just a block of static, like it had been erased. I quit that job a week later. I told Uncle Ray I just couldn't do nights anymore. Couldn't explain it to him. I couldn't even explain it to myself. But to this day, I still check over my shoulder in parking garages. I still avoid elevators after dark. And every now and then, when I'm alone in a quiet building, I swear I hear footsteps behind me. Not loud ones. Wet ones. Slap. 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 And I think about that guy with the too long coat and the too wide eyes. He wasn't a ghost. I'm not saying it was supernatural. He was real. Flesh and blood. And the worst part is, I still don't know what he wanted or if he ever left. Let me tell you about the night that made me seriously rethink my job, and maybe my sanity. This isn't a story I usually share, but you look like someone who'd understand. Just promise me you'll listen all the way through. This all happened just outside of Fairbridge, a small, mostly quiet town that sits on the edge of nowhere. The year was 2022, late October. Cold enough for your breath to fog up, but not quite winter yet. I had just started a new job as a mobile night security trainee. You know the type, driving around from property to property, making sure everything's locked up, checking for break-ins, that kind of thing. I wasn't alone. My cousin Mark was training me. He'd been with the company for a year already. We weren't super close before, but he got me the job, and I figured I'd at least get to hang out with someone I knew. Anyway, on this particular night, we were doing a routine patrol at an old medical center. It used to be part of a hospital complex before most of it got shut down. Now just one wing was used for a pharmacy and some small clinics. The rest was empty, and honestly felt like it should have been condemned. The company recently got the contract to watch the place at night, so this was new territory for both of us. We pulled up around 1:10 a.m. The parking lot was dark except for a flickering streetlight that made the shadows jump every few seconds. The building was huge, with tall, narrow windows and those weird green exit signs that never turn off. It looked like something out of a horror movie. Mark killed the engine and we sat there for a second. "You ready?" he asked, half joking. "Do I have a choice?" We stepped out, and the cold hit me right away. But it wasn't just the cold. There was this weird stillness in the air, like everything had paused. No wind, no cars, no bugs. Just the distant hum of the streetlight buzzing above us. Then we saw it. The underground parking gate, usually shut and locked, was wide open. Not cracked, not half closed. Just completely up like someone had hit the button and never came back. Mark frowned. That's not supposed to be like that. We kept walking, now more alert. As we got closer to the main entrance, we saw the front door had been smashed in. The glass was spiderwebbed, shards everywhere on the ground. There was no alarm going off, which was weird, because this place was definitely wired. Okay, what the hell? Mark muttered. If someone broke in, we should have been alerted. I didn't say anything. I was still trying to wrap my head around what we were seeing. The building just felt wrong, like it had been waiting for us. We stepped inside, flashlights out. The front lobby was dead quiet, papers scattered on the floor, a plant knocked over by the reception desk. There was a faint smell of something burnt, like old wires or melted plastic. Then Mark stopped and pointed. Look at the elevator, he whispered. The elevator was moving. We watched the numbers light up one by one. B, basement, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it stopped. Think someone's in there? I asked. He didn't answer, just pulled out his baton and motioned for me to follow. We got into the elevator. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. Every time the elevator dinged, I flinched. By the time we reached the 4th floor, my stomach was twisted into a knot. The doors opened. Nothing. Just pitch black. We stepped out and flipped on the lights. The hallway stretched out long and narrow, with closed doors lining each side like a motel. The overhead lights buzzed faintly, and some of them flickered as we passed. The air was stale, like it hadn't been breathed in for months. Mark motioned for me to stick close. Don't wander. These halls are weird. Room by room we checked. Exam rooms, storage closets, even a weird lab with an old operating table. All empty. Then we heard it. Footsteps. Running. Down the stairs. Heavy and fast. Someone bolting. Mark and I looked at each other. Without saying a word, we sprinted to the stairwell door. He threw it open. Silence. Not a sound. We stood there trying to listen, but there was nothing. Just our own breathing. That's when Mark called dispatch on the radio, and his voice wasn't as steady as usual. This is Unit B4. We need backup. Suspected intruder, possibly armed, hiding somewhere on lower floors. Dispatch told us to hold our position. Help was on the way. Mark was trying to stay calm, but I could tell he was freaking out. His hands were shaking slightly. That scared me more than anything. Mark didn't get scared easily. Why don't we just leave? I whispered. We can't. What if they're near the exit? We don't know where they are. Elevator makes too much noise. They could be waiting to jump us. We waited. 15 minutes felt like an hour. I kept staring at the stairwell, expecting something or someone to come up. Then we heard the main door open. Footsteps. Slow ones. A man's voice called out, "Security." Mark radioed back, "We're on the 4th floor. Watch yourself. We think someone's downstairs." It was our senior supervisor, Adam. He met us a few minutes later, and together, the three of us began sweeping every floor again. We checked closets, restrooms, and under desks. Nothing. Then, just as we were coming down from the 3rd floor, we heard it. The front door opened again, and this time we heard fast footsteps running out. We bolted downstairs, but by the time we hit the lobby, the place was empty. The door's wide open. Cold air is pouring in. Whoever it was had vanished. We didn't see a car drive off. No sound of footsteps outside. Just gone. I swear we checked every inch of that place. There was nowhere left to hide. And yet, someone had definitely been there. Someone who knew how to move without making a sound. Someone who didn't want to be caught. Or maybe it wasn't someone at all. I've heard rumors since then. Stuff about that wing of the hospital. How back in the 90s there was a fire. Something about an overnight patient getting trapped during a power outage. People said they never found the body. Just a room full of smoke and claw marks on the inside of the door. I used to think it was just a creepy story to scare new guards. Now I don't know what to think, but I do know this. I'm scheduled to go back there next Friday. Alone. And I can't shake the feeling that whatever, or whoever, was there that night, isn't done with me yet.